Many of the mistakes we make in drawing can actually be avoided before we even start a drawing. But how, right? It's very simple, but I find that many students, many drawing students, aren't even aware of this simple practice. So I'm going to share with you a few simple tips on what experienced artists do and how you can start making this a natural part of your drawing process. Okay, so for those who didn't know, I really haven't been uploading videos much because I'm still working on my third book and I'm really excited about it. I really can't wait to share it with you guys. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I'm enjoying the process and I really miss making videos on here. But as soon as I get closer to finalizing the book, I'll start uploading videos more frequently. Of course, as usual, a big thank you to those of you who supported my books, Pen and Drawing: A Simple Guide and the Pen and Drawing Workbook. It's hard to believe it's already been 10 years. Thanks so much. So if you haven't grabbed your copy, make sure to get them. So let's jump right in. An important practice every student should learn as early as possible is seeing a drawing as a kind of pulling together of various visual elements, right? So you learn to recognize that no matter what you draw, it's these elements and the way they're combined that create the visual impact of any drawing, right? Now, you must make it a habit to also think about this before you start a drawing, okay? And this is key, the before. I know this may seem so simple, but I find that most students just don't do it, right? They don't seem to understand the importance of thinking about the subject in this way and visualizing their process before they start a drawing. Instead, they generally just start drawing, right? And address whatever issues come up as they draw, right? And this can lead to instances where they feel stuck or feel overwhelmed, or if something is off, it's hard to tell what it is. And this is what results from not taking time before you start drawing a lot of times. So you understand how things will come together. So before we start drawing, what should we actually do? At the very least, right, we should always take a few moments to just think about the basic visual components that stand out to us, right? Especially those that are most relevant to the construction of the drawing and its visual impact, right? This could be the shape, its proportions, the way it's lit, the values, the lines that make it up, the rhythm, the gesture. You have to kind of forget what it is. Don't see a face, right? Don't see a human figure, a tree, a flower, a landscape, an animal, or whatever. Just visualize the visual components. Think about the visual components and how you will put them together to create that image. I did a series on this idea a few years ago as a part of a series I called Common Contradictory Drawing Advice, right? And in one of those videos, I shared that we should know our subject, but forget what it is. So in this case, we know we're drawing a bird, right? But we have to kind of suspend that understanding and see it in terms of the visual language of drawing. So for here, for example, I'm not seeing a beak, right? But I'm thinking of it in terms of a tapering prism, right? And it doesn't mean that I don't see or acknowledge what the subject is, right? It's more about transcribing that information into the drawing language or the code of drawing. So if you've seen the end of the first Matrix movie, right, then you'll understand in the end when Neo sees the world in Matrix code, right? It's a very similar idea. In drawing, we have to learn to develop the ability to see in a visual code, so to speak. So you realize that all images are just a synthesis of the various visual elements combined, right? And that creates the magic of drawing. And I think a common misconception many students have is that, taking the time before you draw to think about these things, to visualize the subject in this way, it will slow you down. It's just more of an inconvenience. And I understand, it does seem that way, but it actually speeds up your process and makes your decision making much more efficient. But I'm telling you, the more you practice this, the less mistakes you'll make, and your drawing process will be so much clearer. You see, here's the thing. When looking from the outside in, right, and we watch experienced artists draw, it can seem like like they just draw naturally and freely without much thinking behind it. Like everything just sort of come together intuitively, right? But there is a degree of filtering of information going on. Experienced artists, you have to remember, experienced artists have lots of experience and practice in breaking down and deconstructing their subjects, right? To the point where it's like second nature, and they do it almost all mentally as they draw. It's just happening so quickly and almost synchronously that it seems like it's not happening at all, but it is, right? But if you're inexperienced, or a beginning student or just learning, you will need to consciously and deliberately practice this, right? Don't just jump into a drawing. Take time to think about the subject. It's just like when one of the most important things they always tell you in observational drawing is that you look at the subject more than you draw. Spend more time looking than you spend time drawing. And it's because it's so important to visualize, to engage with the subject visually break it apart in your mind. Think about what you're seeing, right? Before you actually put pen or pencil to paper. So the idea is, you want to start visually breaking down the subject and thinking about how you will put those visual elements together. So a simple way to start this, which I usually teach to my students, is to ask questions. And I've mentioned this in my book also about the importance of inner dialogue, right? Especially if you're drawing from observation, which you should be if you're just learning to draw, right? Drawing from observation is very important, you guys. So it could just be, what is the dominant shape or mass here? What shape best describes this form or this object or this part of the object? What form would best capture that? Is that edge more curved or is it more straight? Are those values the same? Is this aligned with that? How will I create this detail? Is this shape half the size of that or a third? How will I bring this out? Is this texture more like this or like that? How will I make this part look like it's doing this? Should I leave these out or include them? Should I exaggerate that a little so it can be more like this? And so on. These are the types of questions you should engage in with the subject before you actually start a drawing, right? Doing this type of thinking is crucial to your drawing process, especially when done before your drawing. And this is something I'll dive deeper in as I make future videos, because I'm generally more interested in the thought process, the thinking, the mindset of drawing, more so than just this is how you draw a box. It's like, what am I thinking about? What should you be thinking about as you draw this box? What should you be visualizing in your mind? What should be going on mentally, right? Because drawing is as much a mental activity as it is a mechanical one. Now, at the same time, we don't necessarily need to do, an extensive amount of sketches or studies like I have here. Even though I could have started without these here, but I'm just giving you an idea of what's going on in my mind. I'm taking note of the silhouette, the outline, the contours, right? Of the basic shape here, of the structure of it, right? And at the same time, I'm making note of the value pattern, right? How is light interacting with this object? Right? And then I make little notes to myself mentally of how I want to render the different parts of this. So I'm seeing this as like a cone-like form. So what are the major takeaways here? Well, first, we should learn to see drawing as a kind of thoughtful putting together of the essential or relevant visual elements. Because another thing that's important as well, and that's why I keep mentioning or emphasizing the word relevant, is that we don't draw everything we see. We don't need to draw everything we see. You see, even though it may be contradictory to a certain extent, that from observational drawing, you're drawing what you're observing. But at the same time, we are in the driver's seat. We are the creative drivers, right? So we have to make decisions on what is most important, what stands out to me. Is it the shape? Is it the texture? Is it the value pattern? Is it the rhythm of the lines? You see, and then you can decipher that information. You deconstruct the subject, and then when you're putting it together again, you determine what will take center stage, what will take the spotlight. What will be the star of the show? Will it be the textures? Will it be the shape, and so on? So that's why it's important to kind of deconstruct the things before you draw it, and then take note of how you will put it back together. Now, the more you practice this, the more habitual it will become until it's like second nature, right? And eventually, you may be able to do it all mentally. That's the ultimate goal, that you want to be able to make it such a natural part of your drawing process that you can see, and you just deciphering information, you're deconstructing the subject in front of you and putting it back together visually, because that's essentially what drawing is. You're breaking down and putting it back together, because everything you draw is expressed through the same visual language, no matter what you draw. All right, that's a key thing here, and this is something I felt like I needed to take a break from the book to share with you guys, because it was just popping up so often. It was like a recurring theme as I worked through the book. So I'm so excited. I can't wait to like really share it with you guys. I'm really looking forward to it. But in the meantime, as I said, as I finalize the book, I'll start uploading much more frequently. Okay, so thanks so much for watching, guys. Thanks for your patience. I really appreciate it. Your support, all of you who have supported my books throughout these years. Thanks so much. As I said, and as I always say, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next video.